All right, everyone. Welcome to my D&D patch 1.2.0 rundown. Here, I'm going to make sure that you all get the most accurate patch notes reviews so you know exactly what to expect in your next ability metagame. First, we're going to start off with some nerfs. We're going to see nerfs to amplifier here, where amplifier states originally states on each turn apply 1d20 to you or your allies. D20 rolls must be used on attack, 7 rolls with death saves, and it powers up to power 11. It's changed to where you can only have up to 3 instances of the ability activated at once. So this, while it is a nerf to amplifier, probably not going to be a nerf that we see too much. Parties are usually sized about 4 or 5, so now we'll no longer see party-wide amplifiers. So this is a well-needed nerf because the amplifier meta was kind of ridiculous. Next, Inferno, the most broken ability in the game. Uh, your attacks now do 2d8 of fire damage on all hits. Spells and attacks originally do fire damage do 2 extra hit die. You gain fire resistance and you're weak to cold damage. Now, the issues with Inferno to begin with is that cold damage is the least common damage type in the game, while fire damage is the most common type in the game. So not only did you have the best damage boost in the game, but you also had the best resistance in the game, and you gained you a downside that literally never mattered. Not to mention, it also had the best damage, the best threshold at being at power 4 instead of power 7 or power 11. Changes. This changed from 2d8 to 2d6. And now spells that attack the original do fire damage only gain an extra 1 damage die. So 1 damage die. That's interesting wording. It changed from hit die to damage die. What this means is that you're gonna do on average. You're gonna go from an average of 9 damage a round to 7 damage a round, which is pretty huge. That's an extra 2 damage on each Scorching Ray, assuming that you're casting second level Scorching Ray. That's 6 less damage, which could be really impactful on average. Uh, and not to mention that your Scorching Rays will also they don't even do your hit die anymore. They do an extra damage die. This may actually be more of a buff than a nerf because the classes that really gain a benefit from Inferno are sorcerers and wizards, and now they no longer have to use their puny d6. Now they're using hit dice. But there's fire spells they're using, usually Scorching Ray, Fireball. They're d6s anyway, so it probably won't matter too much. But there's probably a spell out there which does a d10, probably something like Fire-based Witch Ball, which will just be hitting harder than it used to. So technically it's a nerf to Scorching Ray, it's a nerf to Fireball, but it is definitely a buff to like Fire-based Witch Bolt or something like that. Surge. Before you make an attack roll, send your ability check. Use your reaction to double your modifier. Blah blah blah. Uh, you can continue to hit or miss. So for those who don't know, Surge, you just keep smacking. You just keep smacking. You just keep smacking. The change is instead of you taking 5% of your max HP, you take 10% of your max HP. Surge probably didn't deserve a nerf to begin with because let's be honest, if you were the biggest problem with Surge is that you start making your extra attack and then you just whiff, you completely miss and then you're done. So it makes it so that you can't just search someone from 100 to 0. But no, it's still gonna do exactly that. You're still gonna when you want surges, you want to surge the big boss from 100 to 0, and your health isn't really your health was never really affected by that. If this number becomes like 25%, it just puts a hard cap on the amount of attacks you make sure. But like you getting like 9, 8 attacks off a surge will kill anything anyway. You don't really care if you get knocked down to 1 or if you get knocked down to 0 because you'll just get picked right back up and you'll continue fighting anyway. Void Caller. So Void Caller is a bit complicated. You void 4 random tiles centered in 4x4 area. No creature can walk through the voided tile. At the end of the end of each round, if the creature is within 5 feet of void tile, they take necrotic damage, and before it lands on a tile, creature is on, the creature takes uh, 1d10 necrotic damage and have to make a con save. On a failure, they get knocked away from the void tile and they get knocked prone. And it powers up in power 11. The changes, it changed from a 4x4 area to a 5x5 area. This is supposed to make Void Caller uh, less consistent. Void Caller was already bad to begin with. This was not a good ability, I don't think. Amplifier, Inferno, Surge were all good abilities. Void Caller, no. Void Caller was always had an issue of it never did anything well. It just tried doing a bunch of things, and it was also really RNG. And now it just made it even more RNG. So now you practically never get it to do what you want it to do. This is probably now one of the worst abilities in the game. It's really not that good. For our final nerf, we have Warden. Warden usually lock away another ability within 50 feet of you, and the key is generated in your body. His ability wears off of 24 hours. And on power 11, you can lock away two other abilities. The nerf is a key generated on your body. After use is when damage is done to you, you have to make a con save to release the ability. So, okay, that's interesting. Now it's like you're concentrating on a spell, basically. It is literally a spell concentration. Uh, yeah, that makes sense. If you really wanted to nerf Warden, I think a better nerf is to make it so that you don't get locked away by literally 50 feet. I feel like losing your ability 50 feet away and having them like just walk away from you was probably the worst part. This way, you can probably try to damage them to get your ability back, but it's still not that easy unless you can do large amounts of damage in one go. Uh, it's a nerf, but this is not what Warden needs. Warden is still going to be really good control ability. Buffs, Dreadnought. Before we even look at what the Dreadnought buffs are, Dreadnought suffers from the issue of you don't know what you want this ability to do. If the higher you raise your AC, yeah, nothing will ever. You'll have like 3 million AC, right? But now like little Timmy is always going to smack you, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to suck, and no matter what, you're going to take damage, which feels really bad. It also suffers from the fact that its power threshold literally means nothing because the issue is that you're always going to take damage, not the fact that you're increasing AC. This is one of the abilities where the power threshold doesn't ever really mean anything to you ever. Uh, Changes as new clause upon gaining this ability, set your AC to 20. Ooh. Uh, and now, ooh, this is a huge buff to Dreadnought. This is a huge buff to Dreadnought. Uh, I don't think this will make Dreadnought broken or anything. If anything, this makes Dreadnought just an ability now. Now you can think about it as uh, you'll always take damage, but it'll always be 1/4. So things that have insanely high to hits, it doesn't really matter because you'll be able to tank these bosses regardless. So it's pretty good. Uh, but these have to be below your AC. So usually attacks will be hit you below your AC. So uh, this is really good. If what Dreadnought did is it just set your AC to 20 and you removed all the other text, the ability is probably just straight up better. But you know, it's a good change. I don't know if this will make Dreadnought a top tier ability or even a good ability, but it's significantly better. This is a really good change. Mentor is probably the best buff ability in the game, more or less. So the fact to see this on the buff list is kind of ridiculous because the only reason why Mentor was not the best around was because it was overshadowed by Amplifier, which just did what it wanted to do, but better. But Mentor also gave you the secondary effect of also giving you an increase of like maybe +2, +3 AC. So let's see what the changes are. So the changes are that you get insane range increases. So now you no longer have to stay. So you get inspiration distance increase. So you no longer need to be near allies in order for them to really get this buff. No, this is a insane buff to Mentor. I think this will easily make Mentor the best buff skill in the game. I would rather have someone. I'd rather receive. Mm, I think I'd rather have a Mentor user than an Amplifier user on my team now, which says a lot because getting a D20 to add on anything is really good. But having, but getting a inspiration die, uh, mm, Amplifier is rangeless. So maybe there's an argument for both. But no, I think this is good. This is a really good buff to get Mentor in line with Amplifier, which is really nice. But this would be supposed to be team wide, buff everybody, and everyone gets stronger. Versus Amplifier, is supposed to amplify a single target, you're supposed to do it really well. So I like how the identities are really they really push the identity. Reflect is the was debatably one of the worst abilities in the game, alongside Parasyte. Parasyte was really bad. Let's see what he did to change this. It was basically you would use your reaction to take half damage, and then you deal back like a fifth of damage. The issue with this is that it is just the same, if not worse, than a lot of class abilities that are out there. That you were, if you were like a rogue or a monk, this would just be you just not have a class ability, or you just not have an ability. Let's see how these are changed. Damage return has been changed from 1/5 scaling to 1 to half to 2/5. So now we're doubling down on the fact that reflect is actually supposed to reflect damage back at you. Because the main issue with reflect is that you would take half damage and then you deal 1/5 of the mitigated damage. So if you were to take 10 damage, if you were to get hit by an ability that did 10, you'd use your reaction to knock it down to 5, and then they'd only take 1 damage, which is so terrible. Not to mention that it's only one instance of damage because it requires your reaction. So for one instance of damage, when you're getting comboed, let's say you're getting comboed by a surge user. Hell, you're getting comboed by someone without an ability, and they hit you with a regular attack. They hit you for 10, you knock it down to 5, you hit them for 1. You still have another attack coming at you. It's just shield. If you're shielding with your reaction, is just better than reflect. Now it puts an emphasis on the fact that if you're gonna hit me, then I'm gonna smack you back, which is really good. Instead of making it pre-mitigated damage, they just upped the damage by an insane number, which is good. Uh, is this enough to make it so that it's better than Shield as a defensive ability? Most definitely not. But now it's a mix of this defense and offense, which would be really good on casters that are focused on damage but don't want to just die outright. So we have some reworks. Uh, One rework here we have is Misfire. Misfire is getting completely reworked. What Misfire used to do is every time you missed, you received a token. After two tokens, your next attack would always hit. You do max damage. You'd also roll a d20, and if it's 15 or higher, you instantly deal half of the target's current HP. This ability, like, it has really high highs and really low lows. Sometimes you don't have an ability. Sometimes you're literally one-shotting bosses. So maybe the Lyric changes this fact. The changes is every time you miss, you receive a token. Using one death token, your next attack will always hit and do max damage. Using two death tokens, you instantly deal a half. Uh, you instantly deal a half of the target's current HP. Using three tokens, you critically strike the creature. Deal half of the damage until deal half of the target's current HP, and until the start of your next turn, all hits will do max damage against the target creature. And at power 11, you receive two death tokens. This ability is insane. This is so broken. This literally just says if you miss, you can guarantee that you will hit and you'll do max damage next time. This is better perks. Perks makes it so that after you get smacked a bunch, you crit. This you just miss once and then you're critting basically. Doing max damage is equivalent to critting someone. And then there are also more upsides. If instead of that effect, if you want to instantly deal half of your target's current HP, sometimes depending on who you're fighting, it might just be better to do max damage, depending on if you're using a big ability or if your target has high HP or not. You know, there's a decision to make, but usually you just want to use. It's going to be hard to say for you to ever want to use both your tokens to deal half of their HP versus just making sure that you hit and do max damage. That's kind of ridiculous. And on three tokens, you critically strike the creature, uh, deal half of the target's current HP, and until the start of next turn, all hits will do max damage against the creature. So it's just like a combination of the previous two. So if you miss three times, it's just you. If you miss three times, then on your fourth hit, anything you look at dies. That is really good. Yeah, this misfire just completely overshadows perks. Perks is distraught. But you get a benefit of uh perks is benefit is that you go into the combat and it's already capped out. So most of the time, if your perks is going to combat and you're not capped out, then misfire is just always better perks. But you know, perks has like the higher highs, and misfire will be consistently just probably one of the best abilities in the game. So this is honestly just a straight buff, less than a rework. Parasyte actually was the worst ability in the game for multiple reasons. Not only did it power up on power 11, which is like really late because those are supposed to be really big, powerful effects, but not only did you have to inflict physical damage, but it's also based on your hit dice. So if you were playing a class that had anything less than a D10, if you're playing a wizard, if you're playing a monk, if you're playing a rogue, then you were healing for 4 HP on average a turn, with the low side of you're healing just 1 HP. Sometimes you don't have an ability at all. And then you have to be dealing some type of physical damage as well. So casters were in dire straits. Now what the ability does is once per turn, if you've inflicted damage to another creature, you add 2 hit dice to your parasitic pool. If you have at least 1 dice in your pool, you can use your reaction to roll any number of dice, regain HP uh, equal to the number of dice rolled. Dice are given at the end of each turn. Ooh, and it's now power 4. So this ability is just buffed in every way, shape, and form. This is honestly, let's, okay. This can actually be the best ability in the game. And this is why this can be the best ability in the game. The reason why this can be the best ability in the game is unlike Misfire, your Parasite tokens are not gonna, they don't reset ever. So, since your Parasite tokens never reset, you can just go, you just inflict a bunch of, like, you just take like an hour, you inflict a bunch of damage to a creature, and you make your parasitic pool, make it like 100 hit dice. Now you're just the immortal fighter. That anytime you hit anything, you'll always heal to full no matter what. This is the the strongest. This is probably the strongest ability out, right? If you can somehow figure out a way to not die outright, let's say if you're a totem barbarian, then you are just the most powerful being in the universe, and you will literally never die. Parasite, we're gonna have to see. Parasite is probably gonna get nerfed in the next patch. Don't expect Parasite to be strong for too long, but make sure to get all your Parasite value while you can, because that combo is going to be insane. Now, I believe this is one of the final. We have 2 adjustments left. These are adjustments. We have one adjustment to Lucky Bag, and then we have an adjustment to Puppet Master. So the adjustment to Lucky Bag. What Lucky Bag is, it basically you get to roll for three random abilities. That's your blend and shuffle. That requires your bonus action, and if you roll three of the same ability, then you get to make it as power 20. Uh, Jackpot is never really used, so Jackpot might as well never exist. And then the Power 11, mulliganing your first roll, also doesn't ever matter unless you're only looking for one specific ability. So that the Power 11 also practically doesn't matter. So let's see if the adjustments change this in any way. Maybe the adjustment hit on the fact that maybe Lucky Bag was just doing what it did a little too well. So the changes. So powers that give the allies or users a buff after usage do not persist after changing abilities. So that was a major factor of Lucky Bag is it allowed you to do combos, uh, and it lets you combo using persistent abilities. It looks like that will no longer be the case at all, which is a really major hit to Lucky Bag because Lucky Bag has been getting hit a lot recently. Because every time an ability gets hit, Lucky Bag also gets hit. So let's see how what else. Powers that require tokens or points stay after changing abilities. For example, if you get two death tokens misfire and then change to another ability, then back to misfire, you'll have two death tokens instead of blah blah blah. And now we have power four. All abilities uh become their level four threshold variance, increased variant in each threshold. Um, this is interesting. So abilities no longer persisting, meaning that you'll never really get combos anymore. Combos just don't really exist. Uh, but the changes to where powers that require tokens stay after changing abilities. This could make it so that Lucky Bag users are no longer Lucky Bag users. Lucky Bag users are now Misfire Parasyte users because those abilities got major buffs in this patch. So you're probably going to want to select these as your abilities, and you're just going to want to hold them for an extended period of time, and you're just going to want to stack them up, and you just want those to be your abilities. Uh, Maybe you can't really. It doesn't really look like you can stack misfire to top misfire's order, but just stack up parasite, stack up perks, and anything else that like lets you stack them up. Make sure to just stack those out of combat. Make sure that you always have the burst available. Uh, Power four. All abilities become their power four. Uh, there's an increased variant in each threshold. I'm not too sure what this means. This could mean that um, when you hit power four, everything that's power four also levels up, and then everything that's supposed to level up at their variance levels up at their variance. Um, this is definitely a nerf to Lucky Bag. Um, Depending on how this the power forwarding works, because now we've removed the mulligan, which was a really bad part of the ability, and now they become their level four variants. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how this is supposed to work, but if it works in a way where everything levels the way that it's supposed to level, then it's probably fine. If not, then it's hard to say. Final ability, Puppet Master. You get to animate up to 10 objects, and then you can choose for these things to do that. Uh, to do an action. The changes are you can now animate. Oh, there's a size limit now. It now has to be large or smaller. Uh, that's good. The fact that there is a upper limit to it. Uh, Objects can do up to one command based off of the action list and other possible free actions and perform the command 6-second loops. Uh, Seems like this is something that they were doing anyway. Uh, Commands on problematic cannot be initially impossible, such as having floating pen, right? Letters and loops, so it can't be impossible loops. And instead of power 11 upgrade, we now have a power 4 upgrade. Oh, so it powers. So the changes are you get a. It has to be larger, smaller objects. You can't do infinite loops, but now you have a lower power threshold, which can be really good. Uh, Overall, these are pretty decent patch notes. TLDR, Amplify Nerf good. It shouldn't be a team-wide fight. That's what Mentor was supposed to do. Inferno Nerf warranted. This was the best ability in the game by far. Surge ability, maybe not warranted, but we'll see what happens. That Surge was it was a good ability, and maybe it's not supposed to be as good as it was. Void Caller Nerf, really pointless. Probably the worst ability in the game now. Uh, if you are a Lucky Bag user, you should never be selecting Void Caller. If you're a Void Caller user, then you are distraught and you're in disarray. Feels bad, man. Uh, Warden, Warden may have gotten nerfed. Still good. If you're using Warden, you should keep using Warden. Warden's just a good ability. It stayed a good ability after this patch. Dreadnought still struggles from the fact that you're always going to be taking damage no matter what, and it's unavoidable. But having your initial AC be 20 is at least better for casters that have the general ability. Mentor can now be used at a range. Now it can really fit more of the niche of being this team-wide ability, which will affect your team. And where before, because the radius was so small, it was only affecting a certain amount of people. Reflect really it shifted from being second worst ability in the game to being not a good defensive ability, but it is a good clap back to major burst. So now it's the anti-burst ability where you want someone to hit you with something big because you'll trade it half and half, more or less. Misfire is broken. This will have to see nerfs. I think Misfire is just really insane. Parasyte will also have to see nerfs. Parasite's really insane. Um, Lucky Bag makes it so that you can no longer combo. Uh, it really lowers. It really makes any ability that persists. They're dead rolls now. You never want to. You don't want to take persisting abilities anymore because they don't make any sense. They'll just be strictly worse variations of persisting abilities. And Puppet Master seems to just have gotten a straight buff, unless you were for some reason animating houses. If you were animating houses, then Puppet Master is with. That's going to be the end of my patch rundown. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.